Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Today we are going to have a graduate seminar, so you will be able to ask as many questions as you, or to clear some of your concerns, so in regards to grad school. But before we move on into our program, I would like to make a couple of announcements. First of all, every Wednesday we have, every week we have a luncheon on Wednesday at noon to 1. So we always have free food, and a very nice discussion on different topics that affect us all. So feel free to stop by anytime on Wednesdays at noon. Also, we are going to have another of our graduate seminars. We usually have one per semester, but this semester we are hosting two. We are going to have this one today, and then November 7th, which is a Monday, the same time, 11:30 until 1, we will have another one in case that from now until then some more questions arise, and you will be able to come back and ask again, okay? But the other announcement that I want to make before we move on into the program is in your chairs you will find a graduate seminar evaluation form. Please, I know some of you may have to leave a couple of minutes early before the program ends. That's okay, you can do that, but please don't forget to fill this out before you departure, okay? So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Livy Leggett. She is the Director of Graduate Admissions, and she will be hosting this seminar. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm actually filling in for Christian Gam, who's our Assistant Director, who had something else come up this morning, so excuse me for if I stumble a little bit over what I need to do. I just found out 15 minutes ago I need to come over. But I've done this before. I've worked with graduate students probably for 15, 20 years now, or incoming graduate students. So hopefully I can answer any questions that you might have. Again, I'm Livy Leggett. I'm Director of Graduate Admissions. We're in the Houchins building, room 105, right next to the bursar's office, where you pay your bill, and financial aid, where you get your money to pay your bill. So feel free to stop by any time to see me or Christian if you have any questions about applying to graduate school, graduate programs. If you're confused about what you do, what you need to do, feel free to come in. We're there most of the time to talk with students. If not, you can certainly schedule an appointment with me. My number is, telephone number is 502, of course, 852-3108. It's my direct phone line, so feel free to give me a call. Today will be very informal. Feel free to get up and get more food, ask questions along the way. You know, if you do need to leave or go to class, feel free to do so. If you would also, we have graduate brochures here to pick up on your way out. This list most of the graduate programs that we have at the University of Louisville. Given we print these about once a year, occasionally we'll have programs that pop up right after we print them, so there could be a program or two that might not be listed in this brochure, but most of them are. We have about 150 or more graduate programs at the University of Louisville outside of the professional school programs, medicine, law, and dentistry. So there are all kinds of options for you to think about as you are finishing your undergraduate program. We also have student ambassadors here who work with our office very closely. These are graduate students who have been through the process, and I will let them introduce themselves to you and perhaps what your program that you're in. And we'll start.
Hello everyone, I'm Caroline Stevens. I'm currently getting my Master's in Higher Education Administration through the College of Education, and I'll actually be graduating this spring.
My name is Vinay Patel. I'm in a Master's for Bioethics and Medical Humanities, and I graduate this spring as well, and I'm actually starting law school in the fall.
Holly Bradford. I'm a second-year graduate student in the College of Education. My program is College Student Personnel.
Hey everyone, I'm Vic Rao. I'm doing my PhD in industrial engineering. Been here about 4 years now and another year to go.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations. Yes. And thank you. We'll come back to the panel in just a minute. I wanted to say before we start the kind of back and forth and answering questions that you might have. How many of you are seniors? This is your last year. Juniors? Very good. Freshmen, sophomores? Excellent. Do we have any graduates? Oh, we have a few. Okay, great. As those graduates know, sometimes we have students who start a graduate program who finished a graduate program already, or they go on to a PhD program, or they've been out of school and they're working for a while, and they're coming back to graduate school. So hopefully we can answer all of your questions. For those of you who are freshmen, sophomore, it's a great time to think about what you're going to do after you graduate. With the times as tough as they are economically and with the job situation, long-range planning is something that I didn't have to do as an undergrad, but certainly you need to do as an undergraduate these days, planning your future. There are all kinds of possibilities for you as in terms of graduate programs. A lot of times undergraduates feel like they're limited to whatever they studied as an undergraduate. Well, what am I qualified to do? If I'm a French major, I can only go on to French. Or if I'm a history major, I can only go on to history. Well, that's certainly not the case, as our graduate students will attest. Think outside of the box, think long term, write down your plan, your academic plan, your career plan, your personal plan. We actually have what we call a program in the office. It's called the Plan now for our graduate students, where we actually help you to write down these things, objectives and goals as you go through your graduate program. But certainly at this point, I think for all of you can certainly write down what are your goals and objectives, either for academically, personally, in terms of a career. And how do you get to those goals? What steps do you need to take? And actually write those down. It might be some of you finish your undergraduate program and you decide, well, I really don't want to continue in French history or whatever it is you're majoring in, but I really would like to teach or I would like to run a business. Those options are available to you. Now, on occasion, you might have programs that are very specific where you would need to go back and take certain courses that you've not had as an undergraduate, maybe, 2 courses, 3 courses, or more, or not any at all, to pursue a master's degree in a particular area. The first thing to do is, again, think about what you want to do career-wise. What degrees do you need to get to that particular career, and then plan accordingly. What kind of grade point average do you need to get into a particular graduate program? What kind of test scores are required to get into that particular program, whether it be the GMAT exam, which is the Graduate Management Admissions Test for business majors, MBA students, or some programs don't require the GRE or any standardized test. Not many. Most of our graduate programs do require the GRE and then business with the GMAT. But for example, Kent School of Social Work, for their MSSW program, they do not require any test score if you have a certain grade point average to apply. So the best place to get information is to certain start is the webpage, louisville.edu, and just in your spare time, go and browse all the various graduate programs, what the requirements are. They all will have a graduate program homepage listing the graduate program requirements, admissions requirements, deadlines, and other kinds of things. After you browse these particular programs, and as you get closer to the application period, go and speak to the graduate program director of that particular program. so that you can, sit down with them face to face. What opportunities do you have for me in this program? What are the job opportunities, what are the employment opportunities? Once I finish the program, what opportunities for fellowships, scholarships, graduate teaching assistantships, those kinds of things. And again, what are you looking for in an applicant, and what am I looking for? What are my needs as a student coming into a graduate program? Don't feel like you have to jump right into a graduate program. Oftentimes, if you're not sure, I would advise you not to do that, just to start a program, because with most programs, if you change your mind, you can only transfer usually 6 hours, sometimes 9 hours, for 3 courses. So you don't want to get started in a program and then, halfway through, well, this is not what I want to do, because most of those credits will not transfer. It's very, graduate programs are very course specific, unlike some of your undergraduate programs where you can, you have basically your 2 years and then you can change your mind and go on for something else. So you need to be real sure and real confident with yourself that this is a good decision for you. I would encourage you to check out all of your options. Are you happy here at U of L? Does U of L offer the program that you're looking for? Even if they offer the program that you're looking for, do they offer the particular area of interest that you're looking for? A lot of times, this is probably more true with PhD students than master's students, but if you're looking to do research in a particular area, you need to make sure that the school that you're selecting, do they have faculty who will support you with that research, who are doing that kind of research? So oftentimes, you'll look at the program, but then you'll also look at faculty, you'll look at your interest, research interest, etc., and then you'll pick schools accordingly. So be sure that you, again, gather all the information that you can. Talk to people, talk to program directors, talk to faculty, talk to students, take tours wherever you can, go to open houses, so that you can make the best decision for you once the time comes to apply. With that, I think, again, in applying to graduate programs, the peak period for applying is usually starting in December. Some graduate programs even have December deadlines for the following fall, so be very aware of early deadline programs. Some have January deadlines for the following fall, September or August term. Some have February, March deadlines. Some have no deadlines. As long as if you apply before classes begin, you can get in and start. So it just depends on the program. Excuse me. Any questions about that? The application process is pretty straightforward. We do have paper applications up here, which you can pick up and take, but it's probably easier just to do the online application, where you go online, much like you did the undergrad, and do the graduate application. Pay attention to deadlines, what test scores you need. For example, if you have a program where your deadline is going to be January 1, you'll need to make sure if that program requires the GRE, that you take that GRE in time enough to get it in by January 1, which means you might need to take it probably October, November to get your scores in. The earlier the better is always the case, because even if your program has a June 1st deadline, most of the scholarships, fellowships, and assistantships are given out in February. So make sure that you again take advantage of getting any kind of A fellowship scholarships that you want or are eligible for and apply early. That being said, these days most of the scholarships and fellowships are offered to PhD students. There are some for master's program students, but there are master's students who don't get fellowship scholarships will take advantage of financial aid too, and take out loans to finance their graduate program. With that, I think I will let perhaps the students, if there's anything that you think you want to share about your experiences, what you've learned, especially if you were, doing it all over again as undergraduates, or getting ready to apply, just sharing a little bit of information with them. And certainly, again, we can certainly have a dialogue here with questions and answers. We'd like to say, again, some programs are very selective. There are some programs that might require an interview, where you actually go and interview. Some programs, all programs will require at least 2 or 3 letters of recommendation. So as you're going through your undergraduate program now, be sure you think about what faculty members you want to down the road write a letter of recommendation for you. Because that's very important to you as well. And any kind of GRE prep or test score prep, start now. There's never too early to start GRE prep or test score prep. Students are applying to medical school, law school, incorporate law school, LSAT prep and medical school MCAT prep into their studies, because that's you're going to want to make yourself as competitive as you can be for get any kind of scholarship awards aside from even getting into the program.
Okay. I could speak to a couple of different things that Ms. Leggett mentioned. One is that my undergrad is completely different from what I chose my master's in. I got my bachelor's of arts in communications, and as I was telling a fellow student, that I did a mentorship my senior year, and as much as I loved the program to study, it ended up not being what I wanted to actually do career-wise. The second thing is I actually started out in the Master's of Human Resource Education before I switched to higher ed. Luckily, I made this life-altering decision not too far into my first course of study, because they only did accept 6 transfer credits, which could have shaved, and I could have graduated over the summer. That's how much you could have shaved off. Because one thing you will notice when you do graduate school, you're not going to be doing 12 and 15 hours. I'd say 9 hours would be pushing it even for a full-time student, especially if you have to work or have family obligations or anything like that. It is definitely a shift.
And in fact, 9 hours is considered full-time for graduate school.
So I've done 6 hours throughout mine, and I work full-time and have family obligations. It's a lot more stringent than your undergrad coursework was. My husband, he got his undergrad in history and decided he wanted to teach. He had to do 2 semesters worth of post-bac before he could even get into his graduate program, because there were requirements outside of what he had gotten in his undergrad. U of L through REACH offers GRE, and I believe LSAT, and a lot of different test preparation. Take advantage of it. It's free. They are giving you the workbooks and going through the lessons that people are paying hundreds of dollars in prep work for. They offer it usually, I believe, twice a year, once in the fall and once in the spring. I think it's like an hour or 2 for like a session of 3 or 4 weeks. I think it's one particular day that the timing is perfect, because it should be something that falls usually on people's lunch hours. So if you can pack your snack and go, it's not going to cut into your coursework. If anything, that is the biggest thing that I would suggest to anybody, even if you're not ready to take a GRE, even if you're like a freshman or a sophomore, just go check it out and see what it is they're doing. Because like Ms. Leggett said, you can't start too early.
2 words of advice I can give is most graduate schools require you to turn in a resume. Keep a resume starting your freshman year, if not earlier probably, because you're not going to remember in 2009, 2008. When I was graduating, I got an award in 2007. I'm trying to figure out, what award was this? So it's better if you have an updated resume, keep it updated and keep it as accurate as you can. Another thing is use your resources. You guys have to give some type of personal statement. You know, go to the writing center. They can help you guys with your personal statement. Make sure you guys get it proofread. Most programs that don't do interviews, they will look at your personal statement to see who you are basically, and that's the best way to express yourself. And the writing center can make sure what you're doing is actually correct and seems like the correct format and stuff like that. So use your resources when you do have chances.
I'm actually a living testimony to everything that Libby told you not to do. When I graduated from college in 2008, I was afraid that the job market was too bad and I was too afraid to look for a job, so I decided to go to graduate school. And I decided to go in communication and public relations because it sounded fun, but I didn't do a lot of research on it. So I was like, oh, I'll just go to graduate school and put off the real world for a couple of years and maybe I'll like it. So I moved to North Carolina and I was in that graduate program for a year and I hated it. It was terrible. I was teaching a course for the business school in business communications, and actually that was a very good experience, but it was not a good experience just to get into graduate school for something I wasn't sure about. So that's a piece of advice that I have for you, is make sure that that's what you want to do, because it's a costly investment and it's your time and it's your life. So make sure it's something that you really like to do and it's something you want to pursue as a career. So after that I moved back to Louisville and I got a job for the year, and I thought about what I was going to do. And the second time, I was actually sure about what I wanted to do. So it made my process a lot easier and a lot more fun, and now I really enjoy being in graduate school. So going after something that you're interested in, that you really know you want, is important for graduate school.
Yes, I just kind of want to again stress one of the points is that if you are in a particular major in your undergrad and you want to shift your majors, don't think that it's going to be it's definitely not impossible. It's a little challenging, but I know people, including myself, who've done that. At times, it can actually end up being an advantage to you because you do have the experience from two different areas now, which you can combine in many cases. Like, for example, I got my undergrad in mechanical engineering and then moved to industrial. So that kind of makes it an advantage for you to end up in a manufacturing environment where you understand the technicality, the design part of it, and also what industrial engineering basically teaches you how to manage the operations. So if you want to again move away from your current major, try to look for areas where your current major might also work out as an advantage for you. Given that, also if you want to completely shift from your major, it's also not that big a thing, because, like, for example, I know a person who got his undergrad in library sciences and then moved on to get his PhD in computer science and computer engineering. So if you want to make a complete shift, also graduate programs, what they require is for you to complete a few prerequisites which will get you up to speed for the program. So definitely, if you are looking to shift your major, don't think that it's not possible. So.
And I would add to the resources when you go to check out this Libby's office in Couchins. Downstairs, if you want to start on your resume, the Career Development Center is just on the first floor, and they will help you with anything. And honestly, even if you don't walk over there, you can email your resume to their office. Just find the Career Development Center on the U of L website, and they will send you back feedback, much like using the Writing Center. You can actually email things, so you don't physically have to speak to a person. I think sometimes it's best to do it that way, but if in the interest of time and whatnot, you can always send your things to them and they will get back to you. Usually I think they have at least a 2 to 3 day turnaround, so keep that in mind.
It's really hard to describe yourself in 500 words or less. So
Yes.
be sure. I mean, the writing center can make sure and help you take out extra wording so you can fully utilize those 500 words then.
And typically, actually, most graduate programs do require a resume. Some require a personal statement as well. It's not unlike an employment application in many respects. So you want to be sure that you're very careful, that there are no typos, that your resume is just what you need it, that you don't omit anything. Again, you're selling yourself with these documents. You want them to be pretty close to being perfect, if not perfect in all respects. So again, a good point, take advantage of the Career Center because they're there to serve you. They'll help you with interviewing skills if you have to interview for a particular program. or even if you have to go in and interview, say for a part-time job while you're, you know, as an undergraduate, or talk to the graduate program director, you want to make sure that you present yourself in a professional way, and that if you need interview feedback, they'll do mock interviews with you and they'll help you through that process. And some of us are just more help with those kinds of things than others. All the information assistance that you can get will be helpful. Make contacts. Again, you make contacts wherever you go. Some of you, if you can, you know, do internships, do study abroad, expose yourself to as many different things, do service activities on campus, off campus, in the community. You know, you want to present yourself as a very well-rounded individual to employers or graduate programs.
And the personal statement's not like the college essay, which is kind of like a touchy-feely thing. It's more of a statement of what you want professionally and what you want to get out of the graduate program. So before you start looking at a personal statement, Google personal statement and learn about them so you know what you're writing about and you're not writing some essay prompt that they have on a college application, because it is different.
In the Writing Center, there's a little handout that they give out that tells you, you know, this is what you should have on a personal statement, this is what you should not have, stuff like that. So it's a simple little things. They have different color coordinations, they change it always, but there is a handout there. Even if you couldn't find anything on Google that you could actually use, then the Writing Center already has them for you guys.
And I think in personal statements too, you know, there are formats or things you need to include. You can get help with that, but aside from that, it also does need to be personal. It needs to be who you are. You know, what is it in that personal statement that you want folks to know about you? If you were on the other side of the table reading your personal statement, what would you want to be in that? What would you look for? That, you know, outside of what's in your resume already, you know, what makes you different, unique, and, you know, what are your goals and aspirations? So, good point. Questions from the group? Anything on your mind that concerns you, worries you? Advice?
Can you double, like, major for graduate school too?
Excuse me?
Can you double major for graduate schools?
Yes, you can. You absolutely can. There's some programs that offer joint programs that are already set up for students, but you can. You have to take the time to do the coursework for both, but that's certainly an option. And you can also put together a graduate program. If you can combine programs, if you work with two departments, and it's what we call an interdisciplinary program. So you can combine the two. You have to get signed off with both departments and by a dean in our office, but you can also then combine a couple of programs and put something together of your own.
And in the worst case scenario, most departments let you take at least 2 or 3 courses outside your department. So,
Yeah.
for example, I've taken courses in the psychology department, geography sciences, things like that. So, yeah. And one of the other big things is I want to address was in case of the funding. Like Libby mentioned, there are a lot of funding opportunities for graduate programs, especially the PhD program. But also, one other way I guess the university helps you for a graduate during a graduate program is you're allowed to take more than the 3 courses, and you still get charged for 9 credits for the semester in a lot of programs.
Right.
So you know you have a little more time. You can take 12 credits or sometimes even 15 credits with the department's permission, and still just pay for 9 credits. So you effectively save 6 credits worth of money. So
At least right now.
right.
When you started off in industrial mechanical and you went to industrial, did you have to go back and take industrial courses, or they let you right there?
Not a whole lot, because actually some of the prerequisites which the industrial engineering program requires, I have already been taught in the mechanical engineering program, like operations research. They're very, very general prerequisite courses, yeah, like I didn't really have to take any prerequisites because I was transferring, because the 2 branches are kind of related in some ways, so yeah, it wasn't really that much big of a shift for me.
More questions? Yes, ma'am.
What factor is a fellowship?
fellowship, I guess, it's basically like your department recommends you to get a funding opportunity from the university. I get there are different sources from where you can receive a fellowship. So they basically support you by paying your tuition and your health insurance, and you also get a monthly stipend. But and you get all of this, and you don't really have to work for anybody during that period. Like, for example, if you get a teaching assistantship, you have to maybe teach a couple of courses or help your professors with evaluation of courses and things like that. But for a fellowship, you don't really have to do any additional work other than studying your program, and you still get a monthly stipend. So.
And there, with graduate programs, there are fellowships, as was just described. There's scholarships, and scholarships could be any amount. It could be half your tuition. It could be, if you're out-of-state student, it could be the difference between in-state and out-of-state, or it could be full scholarships. So there are all different kinds of opportunities available for students. For graduate assistantship is, your tuition plus you have to, in some cases, teach. Graduate research assistant, or you do help a professor do research, or usually I think it's like 20 hours a week or something like that. So there's all different kinds of options available, and your graduate program directors are going to be your best source of talking about and telling you about opportunities available through that particular department. Now, that being said, there are also opportunities available outside the department in terms of assistantships and scholarships, so you want to also pursue those options as well.
And the good thing with some of these scholarships is you can apply for them even after you enter the programs. Maybe after a year into the program, you can still apply for the scholarship, and at least get, save some of the money you're planning to put into the program. So, yeah.
It's definitely worth it to do the research on looking for fellowships or assistantships because they do pay a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So to look around on the program's website, to look around on your university's website, just to find out about those different opportunities. Because if your program doesn't have teaching assistantships, maybe the college that you're out of, so if you're in the College of Ed, the College of Ed has teaching assistantships, so you could apply there. So that there's a lot of different opportunities, and they're not always posted in the same place.
Quiet group this morning. Must be the sunshine.
I could give a little bit more advice.
Okay.
So you all go to U of L, and a lot of students think that because they go to U of L, they're very comfortable at U of L and they really love it, that they're just going to stay at U of L for graduate school. And that's great for a lot of people, but it is definitely worth it to check out other schools and to see what their programs are like, because you might not like U of L's program, or it might have a different focus than you're really looking at. So it's worth it to go to take trips to other graduate schools, to email their program coordinators, to learn about their programs, because they might have something to offer you that U of L doesn't. And it'll be better for you professionally. It might be a better life experience for you to go somewhere else and to meet new people there and to make your life somewhere else. So just check out other schools and see what their programs are like, because it might end up being even better.
Or it may reinforce the fact that U of L is what you want, and it does have what you need, and maybe it's better than every program out there as well. So it just kind of, it feeds off each other.
One bit of advice is know that graduate school can also be done part-time. You don't have to be full-time. So do have that in mind, if you have a semester that comes up and oh, my sister's getting married on X, Y, or Z, whatever has happened, and you can't take the full 9 hours, you can still take the 6 hours or even below, and just know that that option is still there for you guys. You don't have to literally just stop school because, it's only the full 9 hours or nothing else. So do you know that?
I have a question, excuse me, for the panelists. What was the most shocking thing for you in the transition from undergrad to grad school?
I think the most shocking, but happily, the best part of it is because you're picking something that you're focusing on for your career, the class size is smaller and you're with people who are on the same mindset and page as you. You are doing courses that are gonna have to do with what you want to do for the rest of your life. You don't need to be intimidated because everybody's starting out maybe a blank slate. They may know a lot about the particular course you're taking, or they may not know anything at all. But the main thing is you're all talking about the same thing. You're not coming from 20 different majors and minors and everything like that. So everybody is very super focused. And there's a lot more reading. So you're looking at probably taking, I mean, at least in my course, there has been very little comprehensive testing. You're working on a lot of papers and doing a lot of reading and quite a bit of research. It's very research driven.
So it's less tests and more essays,
In
writing.
my particular experience, it has been that way. Less testing, but a lot. I mean, and you're not talking about your undergrad where you may have had like a 5-page paper. I mean, we're talking you're going up to 20 pages and plus. It's work that you have to turn in that you know feel proud of and that your professors are very comfortable with, because they don't want you. In my particular field, a lot of them like for you to, one course that I'm taking now, they want you to actually submit a paper for publication. Because that may, especially if you're going into getting a PhD, that's an experience that a lot of people may not have gotten before, but the fact that she's giving you that tool, one, it looks great on your resume, and two, it'll make you help you figure out, do you want to go that next step to PhD, or do you want to stay at the master's level? So.
You're also doing a lot more independent thinking for when you're writing stuff like that. You're not just, you know, this is an article that you read, this is what the study was done on. You're not regurgitating facts, you're doing independent thinking and applying what you have learned in class to that article and stuff like that. So you're not doing this is what the results were, you know, for working donation in the African American community. You're actually going to say, you know, this is what needs to be changed, this is how we can improve upon it, stuff like that. So you're actually making recommendations and suggestions instead of just regurgitating facts and stuff like that.
Okay, what did you say about, you said you were in the law school? So,
I'm going to start law school.
So do they have more like writing and essays and?
For the law school, well, you'll do briefs. I've taken a couple of law school classes, but so most of the time you'll do briefs that you don't turn in, but that's for your own personal notes and stuff like that, and you have exams, usually.
In my experience, it's a little less exam-based, though. I think I've taken like 12 graduate school classes, and I've had 3 final exams. So the rest of those classes, instead of a final exam, it's a final paper, or like a final group assignment or something like that. So it's a little bit less exam-based and more based on your writing and on your research. But the biggest thing for me was really the social life, because when you're a college student, you're used to being around other college students. You might live in a residence hall and be surrounded by them all the time, and your people in your classes really want to be your friends. They want to hang out with you outside of class. In graduate school, it's a little different because, as you see, we're all different kinds of people. Like I was coming straight out of undergraduate. Somebody might be a full-time professional with a family who has a lot more obligations, so they might not be willing to hang out with you or not have time to hang out with you. And so you have to make your own social opportunities. You have to make your friends kind of outside of school, and sometimes that's a lot better because then you're not always talking about school and it's not always on your mind.
And the other thing about graduate programs in general is, since it's more research based, you actually kind of tend to enjoy it more rather than just sitting through classes day in and day out. You actually can focus on your particular area of interest and see what's new happening there. And, you know, it's a lot more a lot more opportunities to focus on your area of interest.
But the one thing is, it's a lot less scary because, you know, if you're in that class with the other 30 people, you at least have one interest in common, that that's what you want to do with your life. So it makes it a little less scary in that sense.
And it doesn't seem as competitive. I mean, a lot of people that are trying to go to med school or law school or some type of professional school, it seems like you're always competing with your fellow undergrad because you're trying to do one better than them. Graduate school, you're not competing with one another. You're actually more just talking to one another and talking about what you read or something like that. You're not really just, because everybody's at that same level then. So you're not really competing with one another then. So I think that's one of the reasons why you don't have exams and stuff like that.
So most of it's like, you know, kind of all about. You don't think, so you teaching you guys, you don't know, like, technically all your stuff.
Yeah, you bring in your own perspective. So when you read an article, we'll have like a 15-page article to read, and you'll bring, I have a biology background, but I also have a law background, so I'll bring that perspective to help discussion, whereas we have medical students, we have pharmacy students in my program too, so they'll have a whole different perspective in class than what I read from what I thought legally or ethically versus somebody else who's more medically knowledge and etc. So they'll bring in what they think about it.
There's a lot of speaking, but in a sense, you know, like I said, back to the reading, you need to make sure that you're paying attention to what your professor is giving you, because the discussion is very, it shapes a lot of what you're doing in your papers and things like that, so they want to know that what you're saying is backed up by research that you're, I mean, opinion is important and it's great to get various opinions, but a lot of your stuff is not going to be opinion driven. You need to have a resource that thinking came from.
Most graduate programs require a minimum 3.0 undergraduate grade point average. And most programs have certain GRE scores that are required, and certain other kinds of activities that they look for in applicants. Now, that doesn't mean, you know, if I have a 2.9 or even a 2.8 or perhaps even a 2.7, that I can't get into graduate school. Some programs will admit you perhaps on a provisional basis. Well, okay, we like the student, their grade point average is a little bit low, or their GRE scores might be a little bit low, but we like what we see, we'll take a chance on them, and we'll admit them under a provisional basis for one semester and see if they can maintain a B average is what you have to maintain in graduate school to continue a 3.0. So don't fret over, well, gosh, I don't have this GRE score, my grade point average is a little low. Come and talk to me, or go talk to the graduate program director and find out, well, what can I do to make myself competitive and to gain entrance? Because a lot of times they might recommend, well, we'll put you in on a provisional basis, or they may say, well, go back and take this course or that course as an undergraduate. If you can maintain a certain grade point average, we'll take a look at you then. So, those of you who are nearly finished with a program, might not have a lot of leeway in terms of how to fix a grade point average that might have suffered early on. But, you always want to, again, keep in mind most graduate programs are looking for about a 3.0 B average coming from undergraduate college to get entrance into a graduate program. Some require higher, they're more competitive, and others will be a little less competitive.
On your application, sometimes it will have an area where you can like describe any or provide additional information. So maybe you had a bad semester, you can talk about that on your application, and you can explain why you had a bad semester and talk about maybe how that affects your GPA and how you recover from that, or how your GPA got higher after that. So there's always a way to tell them why your GPA isn't quite at that level and why you still deserve to be admitted.
And also that is where your resume and your statement of purpose are so critical. I mean, I can't stress this enough, because that's like your first point of contact with the admissions committee, and that is where they see, okay, even if this person has maybe a lower GPA, they've done enough background work in the area already that they can really relate to the program, and they might have the prospect of being a very good student, even though the GPA might not reflect that always. So definitely pay a lot of attention to making a good resume and statement of purpose.
I have a question about the degree of possibility of shifting. For example, I'm now in a master's program in pharmacology, so I'm considering shifting in my PhD. So one possibility is public health. So I think from your talk, and there's some flexibility, so I can do that. However, also I have another desire. Like I like English from like back in the days, although I don't have any background in. I have a pharmacy school and I'm in pharmacology now. So is it possible to even switch to English department?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what I would do if I were you is certainly go to public health and talk with them take your transcripts with you, and you make an appointment to sit down and talk with their program advisor. Do the same thing in English. Go talk to their graduate program director. And most of these are faculty members who will sit down, look at what you have, and tell you what you would need to do to be an applicant for their program. So it happens all the time. You don't feel like you're unusual in any respect. And most of us make 2 or 3 career moves in a lifetime at least, and these days maybe perhaps more often. So you certainly want to be in an area that you're happy, where you can be productive and earn a good living, of course.
In several cases, it's by shifting from one department to another, it's more about taking certain number of prerequisite courses which the department requires once you get admitted. And you usually wouldn't mind knocking those courses out of the set because you've shifted your branch because you're really interested in the new branch. So going through those prerequisite courses, which are usually slightly more basic level courses, isn't I would say impossible already. So yeah.
I'm just checking, but is it possible if you had like if you didn't reach like the 3.0 credential and you had like a 2.7 or less, and you could not get into graduate school, is it possible to actually then just go to the workforce and then maybe a few years later try coming back to graduate school?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
Definitely. I mean, getting some work experience would actually be a very good credential for joining a master's or PhD program.
And the more experience you have kind of in the real world, the less weight that your GPA would carry.
True. Also, like actually working in the real world, it gives you a huge difference in the perspective in your master's program. So it's going to increase your output a whole lot. So it's a big advantage actually.
Most of our students who are in that situation who do come back do very well. So, it's, and what happens is your program actually has to look at everything you've done. They weigh, the pros and cons, and they can then recommend, again, admission on a special conditions or provisional basis. So it happens all the time.
Do they mostly look at just kind of like where you worked, or do they look in more in depth to see what you've done during that work?
Everything, all of the above. And probably just, it depends on the program, how competitive it is, and again, if you think about all the various programs we have and all the different requirements, they all just really look for different things in individuals. Now, there are some who are sticklers about grade point average. If you have, especially, for example, the PhD in psychology, if you have, you probably have to have, I would guess, 3.5 or higher to get into a PhD in psychology, because it is so competitive and there are few spaces. But if there are programs where they're really not limited in terms of space, they're a little more flexible with, giving students a chance who might have had things come up, as everyone, life happens to people, and you don't always make the best decisions when you're 18 years old or 19. And so, that's what they're looking for, again, is who you are at the point you're applying, what you've done, what you bring to the table with your application.
And the other thing that actually working before joining a master's degree, it also kind of helps you to focus on, is this really what I want to do, and is this really what I want to specialize in. Just in my case, during the master's program, again it was more general master's program, but I worked for a couple of internships, and that really helped me to see which specific area is what I want to focus on during my PhD, rather than end up in a random area in graduate program. So it could work out as an advantage.
I would suggest in your undergrad, whether or not, if you have time, if you're graduating this semester, obviously it might be a little tighter or a crunch, but even if you don't intern or have a mentor, go somewhere where people are employed that are doing what you're doing in your undergrad. That mentorship meant everything to me because it told me that I did not want to work in that field. If I had not have done that, I mean, who knows how much time and money and whatnot would have been wasted. It's just, you know, your bachelor's is it's a very important part of your education, but it is not the be-all, end-all of your career. Your master's can take you to the next thing that really focuses on what you want to do. So.
And sometimes in the summer you have to volunteer. I mean, you're not guaranteed you're going to get a paid internship. I mean, law students now that don't have actually a foot of law. So coming out from undergrad, still being your undergrad, you're not expected to work at a law firm or associate so that I'm getting paid. But your end goal is what you want to work at, so you're still showing that I am interested in this. This is something I want to do. I'm volunteering at this place even, or something along those lines. You know, it might be crummy to, and you can, if you're volunteering, you can always say, hey, I'm only going to come in on Tuesday, Thursday, and you can work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday then. You know, you can set up your own schedule then if you're volunteering, stuff like that. So it's a lot better for you in that sense. You get that experience and you get to say that, hey, this is something that I do care about. And that's what a lot of admissions committee will take into consideration too then.
And employers will often look at people they've been exposed to, even if you're not a paid employee.
Right.
You know, they're going to know you. They're going to see your work habits, and you know, maybe you're not interested in this particular area that you're working in, but they may look at you and your skills and say, he would be great over here, or she would be great over here. So again, you're making those contacts. So down the road, you're making these contacts, and people will remember you. And you want to, again, whatever you do, whether it's paid or not, in terms of internships or working, you know, it's important that, you know, you be the best that you can be in that position. And even if it's, for example, you were talking about, well, what if it's, you know, something that doesn't seem real important, and I always use McDonald's, working at McDonald's. Well, there's amazing amount of customer service you can learn at McDonald's, working as a team, looking how you manage things. You can learn a tremendous amount from even jobs that in your mind might seem insignificant, but you certainly can learn a lot from any kind of position and make